San Jose Sharks prospect Cam Lund is expected to go pro once his season is over at Northeastern. What are Sharks fans getting with Lund?
You're Locked On Sharks, your daily podcast on the San Jose Sharks, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, welcome to Locked On Sharks, the premier hockey podcast covering your favorite team in the Bay Area. My name is JD Young, caretaker at the Reef, also the co-host of Locked On NHL. I want to thank you for making Locked On Sharks your first listen, proudly part of the Locked On Network. We cover your team every day. If you want to be an everyday, all you have to do is just follow along wherever you get podcasts, or you can watch on YouTube as well. And today we're going to be discussing Cam Lund, kind of looking back to his draft profile, looking how his season has gone, kind of getting into the weeds with Lund, what we've seen on his tape as of recent, and then where does Cameron Lund fit in with the San Jose Sharks short term and long term for San Jose. So before we get to all that, do want to let you guys know that today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can get $200 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. Okay, Cam Lund. We're recording this right after Northeastern won in a double overtime game. So his season is still alive. Basically, right now, win Cam Lund. The next time Northeastern loses, their season is done. Unless they get into, they have to basically win Hockey East to get into the playoffs. They're very much, they are playing for their lives right now. So we don't know when he will eventually expect. If I had to guess, they play Boston College this weekend, and they're coming off a double overtime game against Merrimack. I do not feel like Cameron Lund's season is going to be much longer. So just as a reminder, Mike Greer did say that they're going to try to sign him after his season was over this year. So let's get caught up on kind of Cameron Lund's season and just a nice kind of refresher on Cam Lund. Look back at his draft profile, all that fun stuff. So Lund this year has played 35 games, 16 goals, 21 assists, 168 shots on goal. It's pretty good. Looking at, if you go way back to his draft profile, he was, remember, a second-round pick, 6'2", 192 pounds, right-handed shot, born in June, so he's a little bit of a later birthday. Elite Prospects had him ranked 49th. Remember, he went to the kind of mid-30s after the Sharks traded back. But they had him graded as a B prospect with a 4.5 skating, 5.5 shooting, 5 passing, 5 puck handling, 5.5 hockey sense, and a 5.5 physical. It's just, how hard is he hit, all that fun stuff. So for Lund this season at NHL Foley, who does prospect cards and stuff, he pulled on Twitter today. He pulled Cam Lund's card, and if you're watching on Twitter, you can see how great Lund is at, especially transition. And that is one of the first things when I remember watching Cam Lund as a freshman. One of the first things that popped off the page is how good he is in the transition. We will talk about that here in a little bit. He's ranked as 72.6 in scoring, 83.3 in generation, off puck, which is kind of like your defense and stuff like that, 43.8. And the 96.3 in his transition. You can see his offensive metrics he's a very good scorer. We know about his shot is a very good NHL, it's an NHL-caliber shot already. He does a good job with creating offense. His transition, entries per 60, breakouts per 60. He is a monster in the transition game. So going back and looking at what Cameron Lund's draft profile, some of the highlights here was the evolution of Cam Lund's game throughout the season was one of draft cycle's most fascinating stories. At the start of the season, he was an off-puck shooter with a relatively simple game. By the end, he was a credible puck carrier, playmaker to go along with his already projectable shooting game. So he was playing in the USHL with the Green Bay Gamblers. They were not very good. Already armed with an NHL shot, Lund's a threat from distance to the USHL, but instead of settling for low percentage shots, he's always looking for inside lane opportunities. Without the puck, he flips same side support, ready for quick passes, sneaky far post positioning for one-timers. With it, he baits defenders into chasing him wide, then cuts inside and shoots in a one smooth motion. Lund's improved playmaking appeared across the ice by season's end, even if inefficiency lingers. So Cam Lund, definitely was a player when he first started. I'm just going to shoot the puck. That's what you saw from Cam Lund. As he's continued to progress, he definitely is more than I'm just going to shoot the puck. So way back in the day, when after the Sharks drafted Cam Lund, Mitchell Brown of Elite Prospects joined the show to do a whole prospect. So here's actually a clip where I asked him, was this, kind of a reach for Cam Lund? So here's what Mitchell Brown had to say at the time.
Yeah, I thought it was a perfectly reasonable pick. At the end of the day, you're looking for an NHL player. I think Cam Lund has a reasonable chance of becoming an NHL player. And when you contextualize his season a little bit more, playing on a bad Green Bay team that often let games get away from them late, he was a guy who found ways to improve and evolve and make more of an impact down the stretch than he was earlier in the season. Oftentimes, as teams get worse, you see players go in the opposite direction. So his progression this year was significant. And you look at, say, the underlying statistics, so stuff like expected goals, playmaking stuff, entries, he was near the top of the draft class in all of them. For example, these are just the comparables over the past few years of players who posted similar results. Zachary Leroux, Dylan Guenther, Oliver Wahlstrom, Samuel Poulin, Matthew Coronato. And, you keep going down the list and you see names like Rucker McGroarty, Jagger Furcus, Cutter Gauthier, Dylan Cousins. So all of these kind of shooters who have a retrieval and off-puck game with some playmaking ability mixed in. And those are all top end prospects for the most part. And so you managed to get a player like that in the early second. I think it's a great pick. For me personally, I thought there were a few better players available, but you go crazy if you start analyzing the draft like that, because you won't like a single pick in that case.
Okay, so those are some big names, especially now that we're a couple years removed of some of those names that you hear, like Dylan Guenther, Cousins, he's some of his analytics remember, right after he got drafted, some of his analytics were in the same ballpark of some of those guys. So should be very exciting, right? As a San Jose Sharks fan, hearing, and Lund has definitely been kind of the forgotten prospect, right? Northeastern has been horrible the past 2 years. Northeastern was pretty good his freshman season, but over the last 2 years has really kind of fallen off. And earlier this season, I made the case that Cam Lund needs to either turn pro or transfer to another school for his senior year. And it seems like he's going to be going pro once his season is over. Again, Mike Greer saying they're going to try to sign him. So I kind of expect that that's what's going to happen. But Lund, though, I think you had a player who really known for a shot, rounding out his game, seeing it, especially with his playmaking and stuff. So how has he improved? I think is a big question. And we're going to go and talk about Cameron Lund's tape and what I've seen in the games that I've watched of him from this season, where he's improved, where I think he still needs to continue to improve. But so we'll get to that here in just 1 second. If you realized your business needed to hire someone like yesterday, how can you find amazing candidates fast? Easy. Just use Indeed. When it comes to hiring, Indeed is all you need. Stop struggling to get your job post seen on other sites. Indeed sponsored jobs put your post at the top of the page and helps you find the right candidates faster. If you've ever been in the spot, like I said, if you need to hire someone like yesterday, the pressure's on. Every day without the right person is a setback. That's exactly when Indeed sponsored jobs come in handy. They make sure your post is seen by the right candidates right now. Now you can speed up the hiring process with a $75 sponsored job credit. Just go to Indeed.com/lockedon right now and support our show by saying you heard about Indeed on this podcast. Terms and conditions apply. Hiring Indeed is all you need. And if you ever checked your bank account and wonder, where did all my money go? Because, I mean, we've all been there. Between dining out, online shopping, entertainment, it's easy to lose track. That's where Monarch Money comes in, your personal CFO, giving you full visibility, control over your finances. Monarch Money isn't just a budgeting app. It's a complete finance command center. You can track all your accounts, investments, and spending all in one place so you can stop just managing your money and start building wealth. Instead of juggling multiple apps, you can use Monarch to check your finances, track spending, even plan long-term goals. And with managing money can be even easier with your partner. They have easy collaboration, so you can actually track your shared account, personal accounts, set goals, stay on the same page without the stress. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONNHL at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com. Code LOCKEDONNHL for half off your first year. All right, before we discuss Cam Lund's tape, do, of course, want to thank you guys for making the Locked On Sharks your first listen. Again, proudly part of the Locked On Network. We cover your team every day. If you haven't yet, perfect time to subscribe. We have more draft profiles coming up. We have interviews coming up, some fun stuff. So make sure you guys are following along, again, wherever you get podcasts. And, of course, you can watch on YouTube as well. So Cam Lund, really quick as a reminder, especially for YouTube, I am not allowed to put clips on here of Cam Lund's stuff. I would love to. Can't. Also, it wouldn't be really fun for the audio listeners, right? If you're just, there's a clip in me. So, all right. Cam Lund, though, what I think his we kind of alluded to earlier. We know the shot, but his transition game, his ability to get the puck from point A to point B is something to behold. And that is an NHL-caliber skill of his, is his ability to transport the puck out of his own zone and set up his team for offense. And he does it a lot for Northeastern. Northeastern, if you haven't watched Northeastern, it's very much a one-line team with Jack Williams, who's potentially like he's going to be an NCAA free agent. It's Cam Lund, and there's really not much else. They have it. It's a tough watch, to be honest. It's a tough watch. Team that struggles to score, and if it's not the first line doing things, they struggle to score. Even in tonight's game, their 3-2 double overtime win. Lund's line scored all 3 goals tonight for Northeastern. Yes, I know that line played a ton in the overtimes, which is to be expected. But this team just struggles to get the puck in the net. So yes, he is an excellent puck mover, getting the puck from his offensive zone to his defense. Getting the puck into his offensive zone. His ability to just kind of maneuver and create space for himself and for teammates, and not just hang around the outside. He does a very good, like we heard in his draft profile, right? Very good job of getting to the high danger areas, that high slot, those danger areas where you score goals. And Lund's a big kid, right? He's 6'2". Like it's not some tiny, 5'8". Like these are projectable skills. And for a guy like him, like these are very projectable things that, especially playing in college hockey, where it is a much more of a grind compared to, juniors and stuff, where just the game is much slower. It's more kind of structured. It's a little bit grindier. And I think that's where the NHL does a good job. Like it's a blend of the high speed of juniors, but also the structure of college. And I think that's where the blend of the NHL is. For Lund, like you see him playing with pace. He is very like the skating has definitely improved on him. Very quick skater, and I'm curious to see once he's not playing against college kids, like how his skating will look compared to other NHL guys. But he does have some wheels on him, and it looks pretty effortlessly. I'm not a big like breaking down skating type of person, but watching him skate looks pretty effortless for him. So good to see. That is something he has definitely worked on, is his skating since he's gotten to college, and I think he'll continue to work on when he turns pro. So the shot, definitely an NHL quality shot. He has got, I've seen him fire off plenty of just nasty, like good luck goalie trying to save that type of goals from Cam Lund. His playmaking has definitely been one of his biggest assets that has improved. His ability to create. I mean, tonight he had 2 assists on the on Northeastern's 3 goals. You see him creating not only with his passes, but also the shoot to pass rate of anytime you watch Sharks broadcasts, you hear, Drew Remenda shoot to pass, like trying to pass it off. Like he's very good at doing that as well. And just creating like dangerous opportunities every chance he gets. It is tough though watching Northeastern because again, like he's very much a lot of the time, defensive zone starts or like it's just not left in a good place. But he usually tends to kind of leave Northeastern in a better place when his shift is over. So defensively, I think he's willing. Like he tries. That's going to be an area that he's going to need to work on, and we'll talk about kind of where he fits and what he needs to work on, et cetera, in the third segment. But that's an area where I think he'll need to continue to kind of work on that, and especially dealing with the speed of the pro game, especially compared to college. But I think the structure is there, and I think he can be a willing defender, and that's kind of all you're really asking for, especially for a winger. So. And then I think for him, he's also like pretty physical. Not like he's not going to come in and blow people up, but like he uses his size pretty well, especially along the boards and, kind of winning pucks and puck battles and stuff like so. The foundation is there for Cam Lund as he kind of goes pro. Like this isn't going to be a situation where I think he's going to need a bunch of time to kind of marinate. And we'll talk about that here more in a second. But you really do see like all the areas that Cameron Lund has grown, especially kind of watching him from his freshman season to now his junior season, where the production has grown, like kind of grown a little bit over the past couple seasons. Nothing like crazy to write home about, right? This season he's got 37 points and 37 points in 35 games. Last year he had 30 points in 35 games, and the year before that he had 23. So you have seen like him take jump up in production. But also Northeastern has gotten worse and worse every year that he's been there. And that's not his fault. Like that's, recruiting. There's a bunch of different things that go like behind the scenes with that. So, but yeah, I think though the 3 years in college for Lund you've really seen his game grow. He's become a much more well-rounded player. And I do think he's on track to be a really solid NHL player. So where does he fit? Where does he kind of fit in the grand scheme of things? We're going to kind of talk about his short-term options and kind of what I project for Cam Lund kind of over the next couple seasons. So we'll get to that here in just 1 second. March Madness is here, and FanDuel is giving you the chance to get in on the action like never before. Right now, new customers can get $200 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. That's $200 extra bucks Choose on everything from buzzer beaters to Cinderella stories and even who's cutting down the nets. With the tournament games happening almost every day, there's always something exciting to bet on. That again was it the 5-12, those 12s. There's always upsets there. So FanDuel app is super easy to use, and the great thing is when you win, you get paid instantly. No waiting around. So visit FanDuel.com and get in on the college hoops action all tournament long. All right, before we finish up with Lund, do want to, of course, thank you guys for making Locked On Sharks your first listen. When you're done with this one, go check out one of the other great shows. You have Locked On NHL, where we cover all the biggest stories that are happening in the NHL with a rotating cast of hosts. I'm usually there every Tuesday with Seth. We have a good time. So, or check out any of the shows here in the Bay Area. You got Locked On Niners with free agency happening right now. I know it's been, I know Niners fans. It's okay. You have Locked On Warriors, Locked On A's, Locked On Giants. Plenty of great stuff here. The Locked On Network. We cover your team every day. Okay. Cam Lund. Where does he fit? So just as a reminder, if he signs his entry-level contract, Cam Lund cannot play on the Barracuda, especially for the playoffs. So, right, you have to have been on the roster on the trade deadline day. This is different than the OHL kids like Quentin Musty and stuff. Once their seasons are done, they can come in because they're already under contract, right? When you sign a new contract, you can't join the Barracuda. Like you can't go to the AHL. There is a technical workaround because if you remember our good friend Thomas Bordelot, you can sign what's called an amateur tryout, where you can kind of come in and you can play. You're basically like you can play in the AHL, but your ELC doesn't start there. So it's very team friendly that way because your ELC doesn't kick in. Once Cam Lund signs his ELC, he will basically burn what they say called burn the first year. So if he signs his ELC, the first year of his contract starts right there and ends at the end of the season. So if the Sharks get 12 games or whatever out of Cam Lund, that's the first season. It is kind of part of the game with NCAA age kind of players, right? Is to get them to sign and to get them to leave college. They want to get out of that first contract earlier because they want to get paid. Like they want to earn that first big contract earlier, right? Henry Thrun signed, did his. Thomas Bordelot burned his ELC. Like you see it all the time. Guys burn their first, Ryan Leonard's going to burn the first year of his ELC as soon as Boston College is done, and so he can go join the Washington Capitals. It is just part of the game with these NCAA kids. Like is kind of the allure is you just kind of eat that first year. So Cam Lund signs his ELC. He can't play on the Barracuda. He's not eligible, and then he'll be playing with the Sharks. So that's going to be a big decision, what the Sharks do there. I wouldn't be surprised if he just kind of signs his ELC and plays out the rest of the season with the San Jose Sharks, right? And especially if you assume Musty's going to be coming, you assume Chernyshov's going to be coming to the Barracuda at some point. Maybe you get like one of the Swedish kids or something like that. Who knows? But like, it's just a lot of dudes you're adding, and you start to kind of run out of space for some of these younger guys to play AHL playoff games. And it's also kind of a little unfair. I know it's a little unfair to the guys who kind of got you there. And then it's like, hey, you got to sit out because we want to get this kid, who hasn't been here all season, some time in there. So I kind of expect him to sign his ELC and just play with the San Jose Sharks for the season, much like we saw with Colin Graff last year, right? And I know the Barracuda didn't make the playoffs last year, but still, right? Colin Graff, a little bit different, right? Because he was a free agent. He could have been signed anywhere. But right, he came in, he played the last 7 games with the San Jose Sharks, and 8 that first year. Then he spent the first half of the season playing with the Barracuda, and now has been really kind of ramping up with the Sharks. And we've seen Colin Graf start to kind of put together some really good games. And I think that's a really good roadmap for Cam Lund, who I think is a better player than Colin Graf. Again, like Colin Graf is a second round pick, high second round pick. Like I think his shot, like they are different players. I think Graf is a kind of better defensive player, and like he's gonna be better like in his own zone and stuff. Lund definitely has way more offensive tools to his game. But I do think the roadmap is going to be similar, where I think Lund is probably going to end the season with the Sharks. And then next year, when a really fun Barracuda team where you're going to have Quentin Musty, Kasper Halttunen, Igor Chernyshov all there, and Cam Lund, like I think that's where he starts. And then he starts the season there, probably playing top line minutes, probably playing with Andrew Podorowski on the first line with the Barracuda next year. And then halfway through the season or so, he gets the call up and he gets to kind of go there, go along with the Sharks. So, where does he feel in the Sharks right now? I think it's a good question, right? And I wouldn't be surprised if he gets stapled to Alex Wennberg's wing, right? We'll see, because he is a right-handed shot. Will Smith also a right-handed shot. The Sharks have a lot of right-handed shots, and then you have Tyler Toffoli. Like, do have a fair amount of right-handed shots, but I wouldn't be surprised if he kind of gets to play in those middle 6 minutes right now. He played on the wing on the right wing in college. Like that's kind of where he lived. I wouldn't be surprised if, he's probably gonna get middle 6 minutes right now. Hopefully with Wennberg. If not, it's probably gonna be Ty Dellandrea or whomever else they have playing center right now, because the Sharks have, anyway, we know the Sharks roster is right now, but he's probably gonna get that. He's probably gonna get like power play 2 time right now with the Sharks, because that power play 1 unit, it's hard to take. Like, who are you taking off? Right, you're gonna take off Eklund, you're gonna take off Smith, you're gonna take off Celebrini, you gotta take off Toffoli. Like he's not unseating one of those guys, so he's probably getting power play 2 opportunities, and he's probably gonna play about 14 minutes a night right now. He didn't play penalty kill or anything like that with Northeastern college. They tend to kind of use those bottom 6 guys a bunch to play those penalty kill minutes there. But like he ran a lot of the power play stuff for Northeastern, especially with their top defenseman was injured. Like he was kind of the guy who was running it there. And I think he's able to mix up his shot with his passing enough to, I think, to create offense for his line mates. So I think that's where he starts. I kind of think that's where he ends up is, maybe a second line winger. And it'll be interesting to see now with like, as we start to get guys like Halttunen and Musty and some of these other guys in there, if projecting Musty as a first line winger and Lund is probably like a second line winger, but he's going to add scoring pop. And like, I kind of think that's where he's like a really souped up third liner, where I know we'll see what Mike Greer and how his vision is, but if he's like a souped up third liner who can, is kind of almost I think a more well-rounded like Kevin LeBanc role. He's not Kevin LeBanc, but that role of like score on the power play, add some scoring pop on the third line. I think he'll be a little bit better defensively and more physical, of course, than Kevin LeBanc, because Lund is a bigger player. And he's already shown that physicality in the NCAA. But I kind of think that's where he settles, is probably like a lower tier second line guy where you're like, he can get hot and he can maybe pot you 20 goals in a season, or like a souped up third line guy where like he's probably kind of a tweeter between a second and third line player. So that's Cam Lund. We'll see like when the kind of the timeline is. Like if they lose on Saturday when they play BC, which I kind of expect, right? I I do think we could see Cameron Lund in San Jose as early as, Monday or Tuesday, and then kind of go from there with his timeline and stuff. So, but yeah, that's gonna be it for me today. We'll be back. We'll have, of course, a Blackhawks preview that's on YouTube. That'll probably go up around 2-ish on YouTube exclusively, like 10 minutes. We talk about the Blackhawks game. We'll have a recap of the Blackhawks game, and then of course we got Ovi coming to town on Saturday. So plenty of stuff here coming at Locked On Sharks, wherever you get podcasts. And of course, you can watch on YouTube as well. Follow the show on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at Locked On Sharks. Follow me on Twitter and Blue Sky at My Fry Hole. Until tomorrow. Bye, friends.